Right, so if you're watching this, you should have already watched the short video on understanding layer masks. If you watched that video, you might have thought, how can I use this? How can I use this technique? Why are layer masks so important? So this video is going to show how you can use them with adjustment layers to have really quite fine control over how your image looks. So next to the layer mask button, over on the layer palette here, is this little button here, which is a circle that's half white and half black. It's this one here. If you click that, you get all these adjustments that you can do. It's quite a similar kind of adjustments as if you go to image and adjustment up on the top bar, but I'll show you why it's often better to use them as an adjustment layer as I go through this. So one of the go-to tools that you'll probably use is levels. So I'll show you using levels. So what that does is it opens up the adjustment as a new layer rather than doing it to the original. One reason why that's really useful is because you can turn it on and off using this button here, the little eye. So let me just do an adjustment. So if you pull, the middle is the midtones, the left is the shadow, so you'll see the dark areas, and the right hand one here is the highlights. So let's make it a bit brighter, tiny bit more contrasty. So now if I click this little eye, you'll see the difference. That's turning it on and off. Yeah, it actually looks quite a lot nicer like that. So it'll be a good example. So turning that on and off. Also what you can do is you can change the opacity of that layer. So if it was slightly over the top, I could click over here on opacity. You can either click the drop down and slide that back and forward. So that's 1 in 100 amount of control you've got there. Or you can just click on the word opacity and drag it to the side and back to the right. So you have a lot of control there. You can even type the numbers in and get really specific if you like. So that might have been slightly over the top. I can drop that down to 70%, turn that on and off, and see what you've done. It's always a good way to see what effect it's actually had, seeing the before and after. I'm just going to pop that back up to 100% to show you how you can use this with layer masks. Right. So whenever you open an adjustment layer, it automatically adds a layer mask onto it. So it automatically adds a layer mask onto it. And if you've watched the last video, you'll know that because it's white, everything is shining through. So this level adjustment that I've done is being applied to the whole image. If I press Command I and invert that to black, you'll see that none of the adjustment is coming through. The adjustment's still there, but it's just not showing. Okay? It's not showing at all. Now, if I get my paintbrush, press B for brush, and then check down at the bottom left here that is now on the white. If I press X, it'll make that white. If I paint black on black, it won't make any difference. But if I paint white on top of the black, make sure that this is selected, so it's got the 4 corners selected here. Now when I paint over the top, it'll show the effect in the places where I paint white. So if you watch, I'll paint white now, I'm clicking and painting. So you can see now wherever I click and paint, I'm holding down the click and I'm just kind of rubbing it over the image. It's making that adjustment visible. So that is the basics of it. Where it becomes really useful is when you start using opacity of the brush. So that was with 100. I'm going to go back a step now and make it the layer mask all black again, so I'll take that away. Now if I change the opacity of the brush up here to roughly 25, 20, 25, something like that. I said that in the last video, so that's roughly what I use. Now if I click and paint, slightly less of the adjustment comes through. You'll see on the layer mask over here, it's kind of a grey colour rather than white. So you have loads of control over how much will come through. If I click and drag over one part of the image, more and more of that adjustment will come through. But if I only go over it once, only a tiny bit will come through. So you get a lot more control. You can just click and pull through this level on certain areas. And then what you can do is, again, change the opacity of the whole layer itself. So you've got two levels of massive control there to affect your image. And this can be done with all of the adjustment layers here. So you can do that with all of them. So the really good thing that you can do with this is using more than one levels adjustment, say, in this image, because you might want to do these adjustments here to the foreground and the background, but actually the sheep you might want to do separately. So if I do another level adjustment layer here, level 2, it comes up automatically, has the layer mask automatically as well. If I just look at the sheep now rather than anything else, I want to pull the midtones out a bit, give them a bit more shadow, that like nice black detail in there, maybe pull the highlights out a bit there. So that's quite nice. Now if I use my little eye tool, click that on and off, have a look at the before and after, yeah, that's nice, isn't it? That's good. That looks good. But that might have affected the rest of the image a bit too much. So this is what I can do. I can invert that layer mask, Command I, same again, and then I can simply paint with my white paintbrush. It's already on the brush tool, it's already on white, its opacity up here is about 25%. My brush is a bit big, so here's another really good shortcut. The square brackets, a plus and minus for brush size. So I want the brush a bit smaller, about this sort of size, and now I can just paint over the sheet and slowly bring in that adjustment layer. Because I've made it only 25%, you won't be able to see these kind of harsh lines where I've painted it in. It will be really nice and soft, and it'll be hard to see that this has been done. You see this done quite crudely sometimes, and you can see the line of the brush around the subject, and that's called ghosting when that happens. But by doing this at a low opacity of brush and painting it in slowly, layer by layer, I can add that adjustment layer to just the sheep quite easily. Now that's pretty much done. If I use the eye, I can see the before and after, and you can see it's pulled out some nice detail in the fur there, and it's really helped the image actually. I can do the before and after on this snow as well, so that's quite nice. It's brightened the whole image up. Now I can see the before and after for the whole image. If you go down to the bottom layer's eye, hold Alt and click that eye, it will turn every other layer off. And then I can just keep clicking and see the before and after. And it's a really subtle difference, the before and after. But if you do that a couple of times and just really work on different areas of the image, you can really subtly enhance an image and really get the best out of your digital files.